This is copper. If you cut this bit of copper in half and kept on cutting it in half, eventually you'd get down to the smallest bit of copper that can exist and still be called copper and behave like copper, and we call that an atom of copper. If you did the same thing with gold or aluminium, you'd end up with an atom of gold or an atom of aluminium. But the important thing is that an atom of copper and an atom of aluminium are very different, and aluminium and copper and gold behave very differently. Each atom is made up of a nucleus, which is heavy, and then space before light things called electrons are going around in orbit. Joke number one, awful joke number one. Why can't you trust atoms? They make everything up. Let's move on quickly before we cringe. So now then, so we've got a nucleus which has got positive protons, neutral neutrons, and then surrounded by negative electrons in orbit. Awful joke number two. A proton is very upset and goes to see his fellow proton and shares his woes, and his friend says in the end, well, all I can say is stay positive. Now the thing is though, why is it that all the protons are the same and all the electrons are the same and all the neutrons are the same, and yet if you got one proton, you're hydrogen, you got two, you're helium, and you're different. If you got 6 protons, you're carbon, and you're different. If you got 29 protons, you're copper, and copper is very different from carbon and helium and hydrogen and everything else. Why is it that all the protons are the same, and yet the number of protons determines the element and how it behaves? Well, the answer obviously is they're all created by the same amazing God who created everything.